The SEAL commander's eyes narrowed as he watched her lift the massive Barrett.50 caliber rifle with a calm that seemed almost unnatural. Everyone in the unit had seen plenty of snipers in their time, but none had ever handled that weapon with such precision, such quiet confidence. The other soldiers exchanged skeptical glances. The Barrett was heavy, unwieldy, a tool of giants used by men who had trained their entire lives to master its recoil and power. Yet here she was, standing steady like a seasoned veteran, as if the rifle was an extension of her own body. Jake Morris, the SEAL commander, had been in countless battles, seen countless sharpshooters come and go. He had never met anyone like Elena Ramirez. He had heard rumors, whispers passed quietly during long nights at the forward operating base, about a female sniper who held the longest confirmed kill in history, 3,247 meters. The thought seemed impossible. No sniper in modern warfare had ever pushed their shot that far and lived to tell the tale. Most doubted the story, chalking it up to legend or exaggeration, but when Elena silently took the Barrett, measured the distance, adjusted for wind, and lined up her first practice shot, everything changed. The heavy rifle cracked, a deep boom echoing off the Rocky Mountains surrounding their camp. The bullet traveled farther than any had dared to imagine. Jake could almost see the path, tracing the invisible arc of the shot through the cold, thin air. It was a feat of pure skill and nerves steel tight. The men around him fell silent, their disbelief replaced by grudging respect. Elena's dark eyes never wavered. She exhaled slowly, wiped sweat from her brow, and reloaded without a word. To her, it was just another shot, but to the rest of the unit, it was a message. She was no ordinary sniper. She was something else entirely. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the jagged horizon, casting long shadows over the dusty base, Jake found himself alone near the perimeter fence, staring out at the vast expanse where the enemy lurked. His thoughts raced, circling back to Elena and the story behind her legendary shot. She hadn't always been a soldier. Before joining the SEALs, Elena had served in the CIA, working undercover in some of the most dangerous regions on the planet. She was a ghost, silent, invisible, deadly. But it was her sniper skills that saved lives time and again. Her 3,247-meter kill was more than a number. It was a moment of desperation, when everything hung by a thread. That shot had turned the tide of a brutal ambush, saving a convoy trapped in hostile territory. But such skill came at a cost. Jake knew the price because he had seen it in her eyes, the haunted look of someone carrying more than just a weapon. It was grief, loss, and the weight of responsibility. Elena had lost her younger brother, a Marine, in combat. That loss shaped her, fueled her relentless drive to be the best, to never let another teammate fall because she hesitated. The next morning, the squad gathered for briefing. The air was thick with tension. Elena stood apart, focused, reviewing mission details with precision. Her presence commanded attention, not because she demanded it, but because she earned it through quiet competence. The mission was straightforward on paper. Intercept a high-value Taliban leader rumored to be moving through a remote valley. But the terrain was unforgiving, the enemy ruthless. Elena's role was clear: provide overwatch, neutralize threats from extreme distances, and protect the team on the ground. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settle over him. This was more than a tactical operation. It was a test of trust. Could the unit rely on her legendary shot when it mattered most? That afternoon, as helicopters hovered overhead and the team prepared to move out, Jake caught a glimpse of Elena adjusting her rifle's scope, fingers steady as a surgeon's hands. The sun glinted off the barrel, a symbol of lethal precision and unwavering focus. He stepped closer and asked quietly, "What's it like, making a shot like that? The one no one believes?" Elena didn't look up immediately. Her voice was low, steady, carrying the weight of experience. "It's not about the distance. It's about the moment, the calculation, the responsibility. Every time I pull that trigger, I think about who's counting on me, who's depending on that shot." Jake nodded slowly. He had heard that before, from men who had taken impossible shots. But with Elena, there was a deeper fire, something forged in loss and relentless determination. As night fell again over the base, Elena took her position on a rocky outcrop overlooking the valley below. The cool night air bit at her skin, but her focus never faltered. Through the scope, she saw enemy movement, shadows shifting, unaware of the eyes tracking them from miles away. Her breathing slowed. She adjusted for wind speed, humidity, temperature, calculated every variable with cold precision. Jake watched from a distance, his respect growing into something deeper. This was no ordinary soldier. This was a woman who had mastered the art of patience and pain, whose bullet could decide the fate of many. The moment was near, and when it came, Elena would prove that legends weren't made, they were earned. Elena Ramirez wasn't born on a battlefield, but war was stitched into the very fabric of her life from the moment she could remember. Her father was a Marine general, a man whose voice carried the weight of decades of service, whose medals told stories of sacrifice and courage. Growing up, Elena's world was a mix of military parades, family photos in uniform, and quiet evenings listening to her father's stories about comrades lost and battles won. The walls of their home were lined with medals, flags, and photographs, each a silent testament to a legacy she was born into but never asked for. From a young age, Elena understood that honor came with a price. Her father's absences during deployments were long and painful, but the lessons he passed on were clear: duty above all, courage in the face of fear, and the unbreakable bond of family. But it was her younger brother, Miguel, who shaped her in ways no medal ever could. Miguel was a Marine, too, fearless and full of life, a brother she admired and loved fiercely. They were close, their bond unshakable even as the war raged on around them. Miguel's death hit Elena like a thunderclap. He was killed in action during a mission in Iraq, a sudden loss that shattered her world. The pain was raw, consuming, and it changed everything. For Elena, grief became the silent partner on every mission. It fueled her resolve, sharpened her focus, and forged her into the sniper she would become. She vowed she would never let that kind of loss happen again, not if she could help it. Her decision to join the military was not easy. At first, her father was hesitant, protective of the daughter he had watched grow up under the shadow of war. But Elena was determined. She wanted to serve, not just as a soldier, but as a guardian, someone who could make a difference where it mattered most. She enrolled in officer training and quickly proved herself, not just through skill, but through an unyielding spirit that earned respect from peers and superiors alike. Elena's path wasn't a straight line. Early on, she was assigned to the CIA, where her talents as a covert operative flourished. Working undercover in some of the most dangerous regions of the world, she became a ghost, a whisper in the shadows who could blend in, gather intelligence, and strike with deadly precision. It was in those years that she first picked up the sniper rifle, learning to marry patience with precision, silence with deadly force. Her 3,247-meter kill was born out of necessity. During a covert mission deep in the mountainous borderlands of Pakistan, her team was ambushed. The situation was dire, with the convoy pinned down by enemy fire. Elena was the only shot at survival. She found a vantage point far beyond the reach of most snipers, calibrated every variable with meticulous care: wind speed, elevation, air density. And then she fired. The bullet flew through the thin mountain air, a silent messenger of survival, and found its mark. The enemy leader fell and the convoy was saved. The shot was recorded but almost dismissed as impossible, a myth whispered in military circles. But Elena knew the truth, and from that day forward, the legend grew. Back at the forward operating base in Afghanistan, Elena carried that story like a shadow, one that brought respect but also isolation. Not everyone in the military embraced a woman in a role traditionally dominated by men. She faced skepticism and doubt, but she never let it show. Her focus was on the mission, on her teammates, and on the silent promise she made to her brother. Her training was relentless. She pushed herself harder than anyone else, mastering every weapon, every tactic. The Barrett.50 was her signature, a rifle that matched her precision and power. It was heavy and unforgiving, but in her hands it became an instrument of justice. She understood the rifle's every nuance: the recoil, the ballistics, the heartbeat pause before the shot. That rifle was more than a weapon. It was an extension of herself. Elena's leadership style was quiet but fierce. She earned loyalty not by command but through example. Her teammates trusted her because they saw the sacrifices she made, the hours spent honing skills others thought impossible. She never sought the spotlight. Instead, she let her actions speak, saving lives, taking impossible shots, and navigating the complexities of war with unwavering courage. At night, when the base was quiet and the desert wind whispered through the tents, Elena would pull out a worn photograph of Miguel. It was a reminder of why she fought, not for glory, but for the brothers and sisters who might still come home because of her vigilance. That picture grounded her, gave her strength to face another day, another mission. Her story was not just about marksmanship or military tactics, it was about resilience, about breaking barriers in a world that often underestimated her, about carrying the weight of loss and transforming it into purpose. Elena Ramirez was a sniper, a soldier, a sister, and a daughter of war. And no matter the distance or danger, she was ready to stand in the gap, steady and unyielding, with the Barrett.50 by her side and the memory of her brother in her heart. In the world Elena Ramirez entered, every day was a battle, both against the enemy and against the doubts whispered behind closed doors. The military was no stranger to tough challenges, but Elena faced a unique kind of resistance. She wasn't just fighting insurgents or navigating harsh terrain. She was breaking through the invisible barriers of skepticism that followed her wherever she went. Women had served before, but a woman commanding the Barrett.50 sniper rifle in a SEAL unit, that was something new, something many weren't ready for. From the moment she arrived at the forward operating base, Elena could feel the eyes on her. Not all were questioning her ability openly, but the silence was louder than any voice. Some soldiers exchanged glances when she took the rifle, whispering doubts about whether she could handle its brutal recoil or the pressure of critical shots. It was an unspoken challenge, and Elena met it head-on, refusing to let the weight of expectation or prejudice slow her down. Her training was grueling. Each day pushed her body and mind to the limit. She endured long marches under scorching sun and freezing nights, crawling through rough terrain to find the perfect vantage point. The Barrett.50 wasn't forgiving. Its power could unnerve even seasoned snipers. But Elena handled it with a steady hand, as if the rifle was part of her. She learned to predict every kick, every vibration, every subtle shift in balance. When she fired, the bullet was more than a projectile, it was a statement. Her fellow soldiers began to notice. At first, it was a grudging respect, the kind that came when you saw someone perform beyond your expectations. Slowly, the whispers of doubt turned into nods of approval. Elena's skill wasn't just theoretical. It was proven in the field. During training exercises, she consistently made impossible shots, targets at extreme distances, moving quickly, in conditions that tested every measure of precision. She became a living example that skill was not defined by gender, but by dedication and discipline. Still, it wasn't easy. Elena often worked twice as hard just to prove she belonged. Some days, the weight of expectations felt heavier than the Barrett itself. She faced subtle challenges, questions about her endurance, about whether she could keep up with the men on long missions, doubts about her mental toughness under fire. But she refused to let any of it break her spirit. Her commanding officers watched closely. Jake Morris, the SEAL commander, had his own reservations at first. But as he observed Elena's determination and skill, his doubts began to fade. He saw how she calculated trajectories with pinpoint accuracy, how she communicated quietly with the team, and how her presence raised morale. He recognized that Elena was not just a talented sniper, she was a leader in the making. Outside the drills and combat simulations, Elena built bonds with her teammates in unexpected ways. She listened more than she spoke, earning trust through quiet strength rather than loud words. The men who once questioned her began to see her as a vital part of the unit, a sniper whose shots could turn the tide of battle and whose instincts could save lives. She was the silent guardian watching from a distance, the unseen protector making every second count. But the true test came during a joint operation when the team was ambushed deep in hostile territory. Enemy forces had surrounded them, cutting off escape routes and launching coordinated attacks. Panic could have spread, but Elena remained composed. She quickly found a vantage point, took careful aim, and began picking off enemy combatants with deadly precision. Her shots were deliberate and calm, each one buying precious seconds for her teammates to regroup and respond. During that intense firefight, Elena's skill was undeniable. Her ability to control the Barrett.50, to make split-second decisions while under fire, earned her the respect she had long fought for. When the dust settled, the unit survived because of her lethal accuracy and calm under pressure. But beyond the combat victories, Elena's true strength was her resilience. She carried wounds no one could see, memories of loss, moments of doubt, and the constant pressure to prove herself in a world that hadn't been built for her. Her story was about more than just marksmanship. It was about breaking barriers, overcoming prejudice, and redefining what it meant to be a soldier. She refused to be defined by her gender or the shadows of those who doubted her. Instead, she chose to define herself through every mission she completed, every impossible shot she made, and every moment she stood firm in the face of adversity. Elena Ramirez became a symbol of courage and tenacity, proof that skill and heart could rewrite the rules of warfare. In a world where strength was often measured by muscle and bravado, she showed that true power came from discipline, focus, and an unyielding spirit. Her journey was far from over, but with every challenge she met, Elena moved closer to becoming not just a legend, but a leader who inspired those around her to rise above limitations and fight for something greater than themselves. The morning was thick, with tension as Elena Ramirez gathered with her team inside the cramped briefing tent. The air smelled of dust, sweat, and the faint metallic tang of weapons. Around them, maps were spread across tables illuminated by flickering lanterns. Outside, the distant rumble of helicopters echoed over the rugged Afghan mountains, where danger lurked behind every ridge. The mission was clear and perilous. Intelligence had intercepted chatter about a high-value Taliban leader moving through a remote valley, accompanied by heavily armed escorts. Capturing or eliminating him could cripple enemy operations for months. But the valley was a natural fortress. Steep cliffs, narrow paths, and vantage points favoring anyone with a rifle. The risk was immense. The team's survival would depend on flawless execution. Elena listened intently as Jake Morris, the SEAL commander, outlined the operation. Every detail mattered: entry points, enemy patrol schedules, fallback positions. The team was small but elite, hand-picked for their skills and resilience. Elena's role was critical: to provide overwatch from a distance, identifying threats and neutralizing them before they could strike. Her weapon of choice, the Barrett.50, was the perfect tool for this, capable of reaching targets beyond the limits of ordinary rifles. The room buzzed with a mixture of anticipation and nerves. The men and women gathered knew the stakes. One wrong move, one missed shot could mean disaster. Elena glanced around at her teammates, seasoned warriors with steady hands and sharp eyes. They all depended on her, and she wouldn't let them down. After the briefing, the team moved out under cover of darkness. The chill of the night seeped into their bones as they navigated rocky terrain, communicating through whispered radios. Elena's senses were heightened: the rustle of leaves, distant footsteps, the faint drone of enemy vehicles. Every detail was a potential clue, every shadow a possible threat. Finding her position was the next challenge. She needed a vantage point with a clear line of sight, high enough to observe the valley floor, but concealed enough to avoid detection. After a careful climb up a steep ridge, Elena settled behind a cluster of jagged rocks, the Barrett resting on a makeshift bipod. The cold metal felt familiar against her cheek as she adjusted the scope. She scanned the landscape. Moonlight painted the valley in shades of gray, revealing winding paths, scattered tents, and pockets of enemy movement. Her breath slowed, heart steady. This was the moment she had trained for: silent, patient, deadly. Time stretched. Hours passed with Elena waiting, muscles tense but still. She adjusted for changing wind patterns, calculated the bullet's trajectory against the rugged terrain, and prepared for the shot that could change everything. Suddenly, movement flickered near the far edge of the valley. Figures emerged, armed men escorting a central figure, carefully guarded but unaware of the eyes watching them from above. Elena's finger found the trigger, her breath steady as she lined up the shot. She considered every factor: distance, wind speed, elevation. The moment compressed into a single breath. She exhaled slowly and squeezed the trigger. The rifle's thunder cracked through the night, a sound that seemed to pause time itself. The bullet flew with deadly grace, slicing through the cold air across 3,247 meters, an impossible distance for most snipers. Elena watched through the scope as the enemy leader collapsed, chaos erupting among his guards. Her teammates, lying in wait below, seized the moment. The firefight erupted with ferocity, bullets exchanging in bursts and echoes. Elena remained steady, picking off targets who threatened the team's advance. Each shot was deliberate, controlled, saving lives with every pull of the trigger, but victory was never without cost. Midway through the operation, Elena spotted movement in her periphery, a sniper from the enemy's side taking aim. Time slowed. She adjusted her scope just in time, sending a countershot that saved her from a deadly bullet. The danger was real and close. The firefight intensified. Explosions shook the valley, dust rising like a storm. Elena's focus never wavered. Every shot was a calculation, every breath a test of nerves. The Barrett.50 became an extension of her will, powerful, precise, and unyielding. As dawn broke, the enemy forces began to retreat. The mission was a success, but the price was visible on every face. Elena felt the exhaustion seep into her bones but pushed on. This was what she trained for. The sacrifices, the moments of fear, the fleeting victories. Back at base, the team gathered, the adrenaline fading into silence. Jake approached Elena, a rare smile breaking his usual stoic expression. "You made the impossible look routine," he said quietly. Elena nodded, her mind already replaying every moment, every decision. In that silence, Elena understood something deeper. This mission was not just about the sniper shot or the weapon she wielded. It was about trust, trust in her skills, trust in her team, and trust in the quiet moments where one decision could mean the difference between life and death. The valley, with its harsh cliffs and hidden dangers, had tested her like never before, and she had passed. Elena Ramirez was more than a sniper with a legendary shot. She was a guardian, a warrior who stood between chaos and survival, silent, steady, and ready for whatever came next. The sun dipped low behind the jagged mountains as Elena Ramirez sat alone in the quiet corner of the forward operating base. The weight of the day's mission settled heavy on her shoulders, but it wasn't the exhaustion that pulled at her. It was the silence that followed. Outside, the wind stirred dust across the desert floor, carrying with it whispers of memories she tried to keep locked away. Elena's thoughts drifted back to Miguel, her younger brother. The image of his smiling face, caught forever in a faded photograph she kept tucked inside her rifle case, stirred a knot deep in her chest. His death was the wound that never truly healed, a wound that fueled her resolve but also haunted her dreams. She had promised herself, the day she took up the rifle, that she would never let his sacrifice be in vain. But the battlefield was a harsh teacher. Even with her legendary shot and unshakable calm, Elena knew the cost of war wasn't just measured in enemy combatants downed or missions accomplished. It was etched in the faces of comrades lost, in the letters sent home, and in the quiet moments when the world felt too heavy to bear. Jake Morris found her there, the fading light casting long shadows across the sand. His presence was steady, a reminder that even the strongest warriors needed someone to lean on. He sat beside her, unspoken understanding passing between them. "Your shot saved lives today," he said quietly. "More than you know," Elena nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "It's never just the shot. It's what comes after. The silence, the waiting." Jake was silent for a moment before asking, "How do you do it?" "Carry all this," Without breaking? She smiled faintly, a mixture of weariness and strength. I don't, not really. I carry it because I have to. Because the people depending on me can't afford for me to break. But inside, there are days when it feels like everything might just fall apart. Their conversation was interrupted by the sharp crackle of the radio. Orders were coming in. Another mission, another opportunity to make a difference. The war never paused. Elena rose, steeling herself. There was no time for hesitation. The new mission was to secure a remote village rumored to be a Taliban stronghold. The intelligence was sketchy, but the risk was high. Elena's role remained the same. Provide overwatch, protect the team, and if necessary, take the shot that could save lives. As the team moved out under the cloak of darkness, Elena felt the familiar mix of adrenaline and focus tighten within her. This was the life she had chosen, marked by danger, sacrifice, and moments of quiet heroism. The village was eerily silent when they arrived. Shadows stretched long and thin, flickering in the firelight from scattered tents. Elena climbed to a vantage point overlooking the settlement, the Barrett.50 resting against her shoulder as she scanned for threats. Suddenly, movement. Figures darted between buildings, weapons raised. An ambush! The firefight erupted instantly. Bullets zipped through the air, the sharp report of gunfire cutting through the night. Elena's voice crackled through the radio, calm and precise. Targets at 200 meters east side, engaging. Her shots were surgical, each one finding its mark. The enemy faltered under the unexpected precision from above. The team pressed forward, seizing the moment, but the battle was far from over. As they advanced, Elena spotted a child caught in the crossfire, a girl no older than 10, eyes wide with terror. The war was never just about soldiers. It was about innocent lives caught in the storm. Elena's heart clenched. Her finger hesitated on the trigger as enemy combatants moved dangerously close to the child's hiding spot. The choice was clear but agonizing. Protect the innocent, no matter the cost. She shifted position, taking careful aim to suppress the enemy advance without endangering the child. Her shots slowed, controlled, buying time for the team to extract the girl safely. The mission ended with the village secured, but Elena knew the scars ran deeper than the battle wounds. War wasn't just about victories on the field, it was about the weight carried long after the guns fell silent. Back at base, the team gathered for debriefing. Praise was given, medals discussed, but Elena remained quiet. Recognition was important, but it never erased the memories of those lost or saved. Later, alone with her rifle, Elena reflected on the fine line she walked daily between life and death, duty and humanity. The Barrett.50 was a weapon of power and destruction, but in her hands, it was also a tool of protection and sacrifice. She was more than a sniper. She was a guardian of the fragile moments where courage met compassion. And though the war was far from over, Elena Ramirez carried on, steadfast, relentless, and forever marked by the battles she fought both outside and within. The sun beat relentlessly on the forward operating base as Elena Ramirez prepared for another grueling day. The dust clung to everything, boots, gear, even skin, and the distant mountains shimmered in the heat haze. Despite the exhaustion that gnawed at her bones, Elena moved with purposeful precision. She knew that every mission, every shot mattered. Lives depended on it. That morning, a new intelligence report had come in, an urgent tip about a weapons convoy moving through a narrow mountain pass. The convoy was heavily guarded, but taking it out could disrupt enemy supply lines for weeks. It was the kind of mission that demanded patience, skill, and nerves of steel. Elena's role was crucial, to eliminate the convoy's sniper team, whose lethal shots had pinned down Allied forces before. The briefing was sharp and tense. Commander Jake Morris laid out the plan with practiced clarity. We insert at first light, take positions, and neutralize enemy snipers. Elena, you'll have the longest shot of the team. Range is 2,800 meters. Conditions are rough, but I trust your skill. Elena nodded, feeling the familiar weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. She adjusted her gear, loaded the Barrett.50 with precision, and checked her scope. Every detail mattered. Wind speed, temperature, humidity, even the rotation of the earth. all variables that could turn a perfect shot into a fatal miss. The team moved out under the pale pink glow of dawn. The trek to the sniper position was brutal, steep inclines, loose rocks, and thin air that made every breath a struggle. Elena's muscles burned, but she pushed forward, her mind focused like a laser. This was where training met reality. Finally, she reached the rocky outcrop overlooking the pass. The view was breathtaking, harsh and beautiful in equal measure. Below, the convoy snaked through the narrow road, armored vehicles moving slowly, their movements precise but vulnerable. Elena settled into position. The Barrett rested steady on its bipod, the scope a window to the enemy's fate. She took a deep breath, calibrating the shot. The wind was unpredictable, gusting unexpectedly, forcing her to adjust constantly. Patience was the key. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Elena's finger hovered over the trigger, waiting for the perfect moment. Suddenly, the enemy sniper team came into view, two figures setting up their rifles, scanning the horizon. They were experienced, no doubt deadly. Elena's heart steadied. This was the moment she had prepared for. The team's survival depended on her eliminating this threat before they could strike. She aligned the crosshairs, factoring in distance and wind. Time slowed. The first shot was a whisper through the air, a bullet slicing across nearly 3 kilometers. The enemy sniper's rifle collapsed as he dropped, a shadow swallowed by the rocky terrain. But the battle was far from over. The second sniper moved quickly, seeking cover, alert to the threat above. Elena tracked him, her eyes sharp, breath controlled. Another shot, another hit. Silence fell over the pass. Below, the convoy hesitated, confused by the sudden loss of their snipers. The team seized the advantage, moving in to disable vehicles and capture enemy combatants. Elena remained vigilant, scanning for any signs of retaliation. The operation was a success, but the cost was etched in the faces of the men and women who had fought alongside her. War was never clean, never without sacrifice. Later, as the sun dipped behind the mountains and the team gathered around a small fire, Elena reflected on what the mission meant. It wasn't just about taking out enemy snipers or destroying convoys. It was about protecting the people who trusted her to cover their backs, about the quiet moments of courage that no one saw. Commander Morris approached her, the flickering firelight casting shadows across his face. "You made that shot look easy," he said, a rare smile breaking through. "But I know it wasn't. You carry a heavy burden." Elena nodded, feeling the truth of his words deep in her chest. The Barrett.50 was more than a weapon. It was a responsibility. A silent partner in the fight that demanded everything she had. That night, Elena wrote a letter home. Her words were honest, raw, stories of the battlefield, memories of her brother Miguel, and the unyielding commitment she carried with her. She wrote of the victories and the losses, the friendships forged in fire, and the quiet moments when she questioned everything. But she also wrote of hope. Hope that one day the war would end, that the sacrifices made wouldn't be forgotten, that her family, and the families of those who fought alongside her, could find peace. As she sealed the envelope, Elena looked out into the night sky, the stars shining like distant beacons. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with danger and sacrifice, but she was ready. For Elena Ramirez, the sniper with the legendary shot, every mission was a step toward something greater, toward honor, duty, and the promise of a better tomorrow. The night was unusually still, the kind of silence that presses down hard, heavy with anticipation. Elena Ramirez lay prone behind a jagged rock formation, her Barrett.50 rifle resting steady on its bipod. Her breath was measured, each exhale steady as she scanned the rugged terrain below through her scope. The moon cast pale light on the valley floor, revealing shadows that shifted with the movement of enemy patrols. Every nerve in her body was alert, every sense stretched taut. This mission was different. Intelligence had confirmed that a high-ranking insurgent leader was planning to meet his commanders in a makeshift compound deep within the valley. Taking out the leader would cripple the insurgent network, but the location was heavily fortified, and the enemy snipers were known to be deadly. Elena's role was crucial, She was the team's eyes and ultimate weapon, perched high and out of sight, waiting for the right moment to change the course of the operation. Hours before, under the cover of darkness, the team had maneuvered quietly into position. They moved with practiced precision, silent footsteps, whispered comms, calculated risk. Elena remembered the weight of her gear pressing down on her, the cool night air biting at her skin. Every step forward felt like a step deeper into danger. Now, from her vantage point, she could see the compound. Tents and sandbags arranged in a rough circle, surrounded by watchtowers and guarded by patrols. Elena adjusted the scope, her eyes sharp, scanning for movement. Her heartbeat slowed. Focus took over. Suddenly, a flicker caught her eye, an insurgent adjusting a rifle atop a distant ridge, likely another sniper. Time froze. Elena's mind raced, calculating distance, wind direction, bullet drop. This wasn't just about eliminating the target leader. It was survival. The enemy sniper had spotted movement and was preparing to fire. Elena's finger curled lightly on the trigger. The air felt electric with tension. The shot had to be perfect. She exhaled slowly and squeezed. The powerful crack echoed through the valley, a bullet flying over 3,200 meters, one of the longest confirmed sniper kills ever recorded. The enemy sniper collapsed, his rifle falling silent. Relief was fleeting. Elena's radio crackled. Her teammates were engaged in close combat. Enemy forces had spotted movement and were closing in on the team's entry point. Elena moved quickly, shifting her position to provide overwatch as bullets whipped through the air below. Her shots were precise, each one suppressing enemy advances and buying time for her teammates to regroup. The battle was chaotic. Shouts, gunfire, and explosions shattered the quiet night. But Elena remained calm, a sentinel in the darkness. Minutes felt like hours as she covered the retreat and advance, her rifle an extension of her will. Then amid the chaos, a shout came over the radio. "Medic down! Need immediate support!" Elena's heart lurched. She scanned the area and spotted the medic pinned behind a vehicle, bleeding but conscious. Without hesitation, Elena shifted fire toward enemy fighters, threatening the medic, her shots cutting through the night with lethal accuracy. The team rallied, pushing back the enemy with renewed vigor. Elena's cover was the difference between life and death in those critical moments. The firefight finally subsided as enemy forces retreated, the compound secured. Exhausted, Elena lowered her rifle and allowed herself a moment to breathe. The night had tested everything she was: skill, courage, endurance. And she had held firm. Later, as dawn broke over the jagged peaks, Elena rejoined her team. The sun painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, a stark contrast to the darkness they had faced. Commander Jake Morris greeted her with a nod of respect. "You made all the difference tonight. Your shots saved lives." Elena nodded, the weight of the night still heavy in her chest. She knew the victory was bittersweet. War left scars, some visible, others buried deep. That day, amidst the quiet moments between missions, Elena took a call from home. Her mother's voice trembled with a mixture of pride and worry. "We're so proud of you, Elena. But we miss you." The words struck her harder than any bullet ever could. The distance, the danger, it all came crashing in. But Elena's resolve remained unbroken. She was fighting not just for survival, but for something bigger: honor, duty, and the hope of returning home. As the sun climbed higher, Elena prepared for what lay ahead. The battles were far from over, but she was ready. With every shot, every mission, she was forging a legacy, a story of courage, sacrifice, and the unyielding spirit of a woman who dared to defy the impossible. Elena Ramirez was no longer just a sniper with a legendary kill mark. She was a symbol of strength in the face of adversity, a guardian of her team, and a warrior who would never back down. The sun shone brightly over the military base as Elena Ramirez stood at attention, the familiar weight of the Barrett.50 resting beside her. Today was not a day for combat, it was a day for recognition. The long, grueling missions, the quiet sacrifices, and the relentless determination had all led to this moment. A medal ceremony awaited, a rare occasion where valor was publicly honored, and Elena was at the center. The ceremony was held in the open courtyard, surrounded by rows of soldiers, officers, and families. The American flag fluttered proudly in the breeze, a symbol of everything Elena and her comrades fought to protect. The air was thick with anticipation and respect. For Elena, it was more than just an award. It was a testament to the journey she had endured, the battles she had fought, and the sacrifices she had made. As the commanding officer began to speak, recounting the mission that had etched Elena's name into military history, she felt a surge of emotion. The story was retold: the impossible sniper shot at 3,247 meters, the bravery under fire, the unwavering calm in the chaos of combat. She saw the faces of her teammates in the crowd, the silent acknowledgments passing between them. This was a victory shared by all who stood shoulder to shoulder in the field. When her name was called, Elena stepped forward with steady grace. The medal was pinned to her uniform, a shining symbol of courage and skill. Applause erupted, but amidst the clapping, her thoughts drifted to the cost. Friends lost, nights spent waiting in silence, and the endless battle within herself. After the ceremony, Elena found a quiet moment near the base's flagpole. She touched the medal lightly, feeling its cold metal against her skin. It was a reminder, not just of her achievements, but of the journey yet to come. Her phone buzzed. A message from her mother appeared. "We're so proud. Come home soon." Elena smiled softly. The war was far from over, but the hope of returning home fueled her resolve. That evening, as the base settled into a rare calm, Elena sat beside the campfire with her closest comrades. Stories were shared of courage, loss, and the bonds that held them together. Laughter mixed with moments of solemn reflection. Here, among those who understood the price of service, Elena felt a deep sense of belonging. As the fire flickered against the night sky, Elena gazed upward, the stars shining like distant promises. She thought of Miguel, her brother, the reason she had picked up the rifle, the reason she carried on. His memory was a guiding light, a source of strength when darkness threatened to consume her. In the days that followed, Elena returned to training with renewed focus. The battlefield demanded constant readiness, her skills sharpened, her instincts honed. But beneath the surface, a quiet determination grew, a desire to pave the way for others like her, women who dared to serve in the fiercest roles and break barriers. Elena knew her story was more than just a record-breaking shot. It was a testament to courage, resilience, and the unyielding spirit of those who answered the call to serve. She was a trailblazer, a sniper, a soldier, a woman who had proven that limits were meant to be shattered. And as she prepared for the next mission, Elena Ramirez carried with her not just a rifle and a medal, but the weight of history and the hope of a future where every soldier's story could be told. The battlefield might be unpredictable, but Elena's resolve was steadfast. No matter the distance, no matter the danger, she would always stand watch, ready to protect those who depended on her. Because for Elena, being a sniper was never just about the shot, it was about the heart behind it.